Hello and welcome to Coromandel.com. In today's video, I'd like to introduce you to Stampin' Up's envelope punch board. The punch board is a portable and easy way to make envelopes in many different sizes. You can make big, small, or even non-traditional envelope sizes. When you receive your envelope punch board, it is going to come with some paper instructions on how to utilize the board. But you don't have to worry about losing these because you have the instructions printed right here on the board itself. You'll also notice that there are measurements for different envelopes here on the board. What you're seeing here are measurements for 66 different envelope sizes on the board. And these measurements are in inches. And if you operate by the metric systems, don't worry, because your punch board is also going to come with a sticker here that you can peel off and place right over the top of these measurements, so you have metric as well as inches. But however, I like to work in inches. The board is incredibly easy to use. When looking at these measurements, you'll notice that there's 3 different measurements given. One is a column that has your card size, one has your paper size, and one has the score line. So what you want to do is look for the card size that you're trying to make an envelope for. So if we were making a standard card, you will come down to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and you go across horizontally, and this is telling me that my paper size needs to be an 8 by 8 inch piece of paper or cardstock. Now I've gone ahead and I've already cut an 8 inch by 8 inch of garden green cardstock, but you can use designer series paper, you can use magazines, you can use newspaper, you can even use the envelope paper that we currently have in our catalogue. But before we make an envelope, I'd like to share with you a few other features that your board has as well. So here on the right, you'll notice there's a convenient storage slot that holds your scoring tool for your punch board. And this tool fits very nicely into this score line. And this score line is a groove that's in your board that you've been working with quite a bit. So I want you to see where this groove is, because once you have your cardstock or paper over it, you're obviously not going to be able to see it. So you're going to need to be able to line up your scoring tool right up against this plastic piece here and then do your scoring. So now at least you know where that score line is. You'll also notice that there's a little bit of plastic here that's sticking out. Now this is called your score guide, and I'll be showing you how to use that in a moment. Across the top here we have a ruler on our punch board, and this ruler is to serve for lining up our score lines. So for the card size that we're making, the 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, your score line is going to be at 3 1/2 inches. And we also have our centimeter line down the bottom here as well. So why you need this score line measurement is so that you know where to line your paper up to place your first score line. Now the last little feature I'd like to show you is this little punch here. So when you have a piece of cardstock or your paper in this way and punch, you're going to get a notch that punches out. Then on the back side here, if you put a corner right into this part here and punch out, you're going to get this really nice rounded corner, which should be a nice touch for some of your envelope finishes. So let's go ahead and let's make an envelope. So I'm going to take our 8 inch by 8 inch piece of cardstock, and our score line needs to be lined up at a 3 1/2 inches. So I'm going to slide my cardstock underneath this plastic thing here, and I'm going to line my left edge up against my 3 1/2 inch mark as directed on our ruler. Now there's 2 things you need to do. That on every side you create your envelope, you need a first punch. Now I always do my punching perch because I seem to always forget. And then I'm going to push my scoring tool right up against this plastic piece here and feel for that groove for my scoring, and then I'm just going to then score. And so you pull your scoring tool all the way to the edge of your cardstock. Sometimes when you're creating non-traditional size envelopes, your cardstock's going to be a bit larger than your envelope punch board. So you just want to be careful when doing your scoring in that case that you don't quite drop off the board. But I will score as long as I could and then turn the cardstock. You'll be able to score the rest of the way. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take our cardstock and we're going to flip it counterclockwise, and you no longer have to worry about lining things across the top here, but instead we're going to line things up on this score guide. So what you want to do is line up that score guide here right up to the center of that score line that you had just created. So I'm placing my score guide right into the center of that score line, and I'm putting my paper right up against the top of my board here, and I'm going to punch, and then I'm going to put my tool right into the scoring groove here and score. Then I'm going to turn a quarter turn again, line up my score guide with that score line I just created, and once again we're going to punch, and then we're going to score into that groove. And one more time, we're rotating again a quarter, line up our score line with our score guide, we'll do our punch, and then we're doing our final score. So now you have your final result, which looks like this image right here on an envelope punch board. And now what we're going to do is we can fold in our scores. Now, one thing I should mention, that if you are working with designer series paper, for example this piece here, whatever design you have facing up is going to be the one that's on the outside of your envelope, because you want to be folding your fold away from the valley. So your score line here creates a little valley, so what you want to do is you want to fold opposite the valley. So that's why when you're doing your scoring, when you want to make sure with whatever design you want on your envelope, it's the one that you're looking at when you're actually punching and scoring. So now we're just going to use our little scoring tool here, help us score and fold our four sides in, and making them a bit more crisp as we go. And for an envelope that I like to do, I like to fold in the smaller sides in first, then the larger side up like this. But if you want an even cleaner look or finished look, you could go ahead and cut straight across there of this piece right here. But I'm okay leaving that bit there. This, however, I am going to finish off. I'm just going to turn it around and give it a nice rounded edge. So I'm going to put that right up here into the corner rounder punch and push. And then we've got this nice little round corner here on our envelope. Now, in terms of putting your envelope together, you can either use tear tape or snail or glue dots. It all depends on how secure you would like your envelope to be. For something as thick as cardstock, I like to use sticky strip or tear tape, especially if it's going through the mail. And again, you can always use the same sticky strip or tear tape or snail or other closure right across the top here to close your envelope. So as here you can see one that I've created using designer series paper, which is really nice because you kind of have the two patterns, one on the outside and one on the inside. Now don't forget, you have 66 different sizes here. So what you could do, for example, with this envelope, which is for a card that was 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, I could go ahead and make a second envelope that's 4 inches by 5 inches, which is what I've done here. And all I've done is to temporarily adhere this in, and I can pull this out. Once I've created my actual envelope all punched out and scored, I've cut along 3 of those score lines and I've rounded the top edge, and now what I have is a liner for my envelope. So you can just use snail or multi-purpose glue to go ahead and adhere that to the inside of your envelope. So now you have a really cute envelope liner. One thing I should also let you know is that sometimes when you create a non-traditional envelope size, like I've done here, you're going to have some excess paper or cardstock hanging over. For the inside, I just went ahead and cut that straight across there. For the outside, depending on what you're doing with it, you can either leave it this way, you could always fold it up and embellish it in some way, or you could just clearly just snip it across the edge there. But again, that will depend on the purpose that you're going to use the envelope for. So there you have it, an introduction to Stampin' Up's envelope punch board, a really wonderful, portable and easy way to create all different size envelopes for your cards and paper craft projects.